Okay, today we're going to learn some JavaScript. If you've ever taken any kind of a programming language, that would be great. If you haven't, then this could be your first experience in programming languages, which is fine. JavaScript is a client-side scripting language, which means it works on the desktop. It doesn't work on it essentially downloads the code from the server. When you ask for that HTML page, it downloads that to the client browser, and then it executes on the client side. So let's begin with the very typical program is Hello World, and I've just got a simple little page here that just does nothing so far. It links to a style sheet and class default and all those kinds of things, and an H1 that just says it's a first JavaScript page. So we move on, and the first thing we see is I've added a script language equals JavaScript, type equals text / JavaScript. I've added that in two places. So I've got scripts that have to happen. One set goes in the head and one set goes in the body. This is an important concept because what you need to understand is you're going to create some functions in the header area, in the head, but you're going to execute or call those functions in the body area. Now, let's take a look at what a function is. Functions do one of two things. They either perform an action or they return the result. Our first example is going to be the hello world function, and it's written the word function hello world. Now I'm using something called camel case, where the first word hello is all lowercase and any word thereafter is capitalized. This has nothing to do with file names and folder names, which I have swore to you do not have any spaces in it. That's just been an example for me. But in this case, camel case, followed by the parentheses, left and right parentheses. That's for additional parameters that you might need, although in this case we don't need any. And then we have an open bracket, which has got to be followed with a closed bracket. But inside of that, I have one command, document.write. Document refers to itself, this HTML document, document.write, and then in parentheses I have the words hello world. But hello world are in quotes. So when you're writing a string of data to the page, to the document, it's document.write, and in parentheses whatever that string of data is. Now I followed it with a semicolon, which is technically not necessary, but I like to use it because other programming languages use it. It's good practice to be into. So function hello world, I created it. But if I were to run this program, nothing would happen other than the H1 would show up. But down below in the body, I didn't actually call that function. So I've created the function, but I've not executed it. It's like putting a tool in your tool belt, but never actually utilizing it. Now, what happens is you add the hello world down at the bottom, and what it does there is it calls that function hello world, and it will print the results, and we can see what the results look like. It just says the words hello world beneath our header area. Now I'm going to add a second function. I mentioned that the first function was to perform an action. It just printed hello world. In the second function, I created a function called get greeting. Same camel case, lowercase get, and then capitalized greeting. There are no parameters, but I still need my left and right parentheses, and then I need my left and right braces. And I created a variable called HW, and I set it equal to Hola Mundo, which of course is just Spanish for hello world. And you can see over on the right I have my // which means ignore everything for the rest of the line. So I can see where it says hello world in Spanish in green. You'll also notice when I write multiple functions, I often separate them by just a comment area. So I use a /* to begin a comment and a */ to end a comment. In between, I just put a bunch of asterisks, but nonetheless. So this function getGreeting, what it actually does is it assigns a variable to HW, and then it returns that result. So down below, you'll notice I have to return that result to something. So I create a variable called greeting that equals getGreeting. Now what that really is saying is whatever the returned result of getGreeting is, put that into the greeting variable. So that variable is going to just say Hola Mundo. And down below, I want to display that. So it says document.write, and I got a couple of BRs in there just to separate my two commands. But it's going to say print out that string of data, 2 BRs, which are line breaks, and then print the greeting. So it's going to say Hola Mundo. After, of course, it says Hello World, because that's my first function. But you notice the difference. Hello World is just the function. The second one assigns a value equal to that function, and that's because that's a function that returns a result. And we can see that displayed there very nicely. Now, I'm going to add a third function that says hello there. In that case, I've got a parameter that says the name. What is the name? Well, we don't know what it is, but what it's going to do is it's going to print out a BR, a line break, and then it's going to print out the word hello, and then it's going to print whatever the name value is. So whatever value I send to that function, that's what it's going to print out. Again, I'm in the scripting area that's in the head part of the HTML page, and that's where I've created all these functions. I'll execute it down below in the body part, and you can see I wrote hello there Fred. Now in that case it says Fred got sent to the hello there function, and it prints hello Fred in that case. And obviously it still is printing hello world and hello mundo. You notice I had 2 BRs between hello world and hello mundo because I felt like doing that. That actually put a blank line. I only had 1 BR after or before I wrote hello Fred. Now, let's change it up a little bit because not everybody's named Fred. So let's create a variable called the name and set it equal to a prompt. Now this is quite interesting. What is your name is in quotes, comma, and then double quotes, nothing inside those double quotes. All that inside of parentheses and of course followed by a semicolon at the end. As an experiment, if I were teaching this in class, I would skip the comma and the extra double quotes there just to see what happens. But you can try that at home when you write this assignment. But variable the name equals so what this is saying is prompt me. Give me what is your name as my question. And actually the comma and the double quotes just says put in a default value of nothing. If I had put in a default value of Fred, it would always say Fred there unless you changed otherwise. So the prompt is saying ask the reader, the user, to enter a name. And then once you've given me that name, whatever you wrote, then I'm going to execute the hello there function, sending that value to that function. So you can see that it prompts me, what is your name? And I'll type in Joe this time rather than Fred, and I'll hit OK. And now it says not only hello world, hello mundo, but now instead of saying hello Fred, it says hello. I'll just add a little bit more on that, something called the alert. Well, we know the name is Joe or whatever it is they typed in at the prompt, but we're going to send an alert message. And it says, are you ready for spring break? And that is in quotes. Plus, the plus sign is the concatenation symbol for JavaScript. So it says, print, are you ready for spring break? And then add to that, concatenate to that the name variable, and then concatenate to that the question mark. And that's what I want you to send as an alert. An alert is going to create a little pop-up window for me. And you'll notice, by the way, in one case I have the plus spaced out, and the other, after the name, I have the plus directly there. It doesn't really matter. The JavaScript is forgiving either way. But in this case, after it prints hello world, hello mundo, and hello Joe, it then says, are you ready for spring break, Joe? Automatically put it in. That's what an alert message is. Now, I can show you that in a couple of different browsers besides Internet Explorer. We have Firefox, and even in Safari. It's all going to look slightly different, but it's all doing the same thing. That's why we like to check browser compatibility before we write any kind of a script.